Let's face it, most teens aren't exactly known for having the healthiest habits. But did you know that the adolescent diet is considered the poorest of all age and population groups? While nutrient gaps are concerning at any age, they're especially critical during adolescence when teens gain up to 25% of their adult height, 50% of their adult weight, and undergo significant brain changes.
In today's episode, we're outlining which nutrients are most important during the teenage years and empowering parents and nutrition experts to successfully set teens up for optimal growth and development. Don't tune out too early. We outline 3 superstar foods that deliver multiple essential nutrients and share which ones we stock in our own kitchen. Let's dive in.
This episode is in collaboration with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, a contractor of the Beef Checkoff.
The thing about this episode, Carolyn, is that it has really made me look at my habits at home.
Oh, yeah. I'm embarrassed that we did not take a closer look at teen nutrition before now.
Oh, yeah.
Because, and I think this somewhat started our interest, or kind of piqued your interest, as I went to a seminar, a workshop, a fabulous workshop at, I believe it was the Children's Hospital in Arkansas, and it was exclusively on teen nutrition and health.
Yeah.
And I came back. I don't know if you remember. I came back and I was blown away.
Oh, you were fired up.
Learned.
You were sending me information from the workshop seminar thing. And when you do that, I know that we are dialed in on a hot topic.
Well, and just to highlight how good this workshop, this seminar conference is, you know, I have a short attention span. And this was like 8 to 5. And I was dialed in the whole time because it was so fascinating. I was like, how did I not know about how significant these nutrition issues are among pretty much all teens?
Yeah. The word I keep using is abomination. Like, teen nutrition is an abomination. And now, I mean, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to be like that mom. I don't want to be that like Karen, but I want to go around and tell all my friends, like, do you know how bad our kids' diets are?
Yeah.
They are terrible.
But, you know, we really need to go give them tips on what to do. And that's what we're going to do today.
That's right.
But we are going to highlight, why adolescent, preteen, and teen diets are so bad. And there are actually some biological reasons.
Yes.
Or I guess psychological. It has to do with brain development. And highlight really kind of 3 in particular nutrients that we feel like are of the greatest importance. And there are easy things you can do if you have a teen or preteen at home to up their intake of these things.
Yes.
So this is worth the listen. We're not going to try to tell you to start or overhaul your diet at home, your family meals, or anything like that. There's some easy things you can do.
Absolutely.
And I think it just helps being aware.
Exactly. I think awareness is huge. Let's start with talking about why this stage of life is so important from a nutrition standpoint, because you pulled some really, really good statistics. And yes, it is a stage where there is rapid growth and there is puberty and there is a lot of brain development happening like that. But there's some other more nuanced tidbits that you've pulled that I think are really fascinating and you know, hopefully listeners will agree.
Yeah. So from a height perspective, during the teenage years, a teen will achieve up to 25% of their final height. I know my son is banking on that.
Oh my gosh. And he is shooting up.
Yes. They will approximately double their body weight, gain about 40 to 50% of their adult body weight.
Yeah.
And so how this breaks down is males typically grow an average of 8 inches taller and on average gain around 45 pounds. Now, we know that's going to vary somewhat, but that's just the average. Females are going to grow an average of 6 inches taller and gain approximately 35 pounds.
Wow.
So, and for your girls, it's going to start at around 10 or 11 years. Your boys are a little later. We know they're around 12 or 13. But for both of them, this really intense puberty, rapid growth stage is going to be about 2.5 years long.
Yeah. What I think is interesting to point out here is that we're talking about teenagers, But when you look at development and you look at the research, they're going down to like age 9.
Yeah.
Right? So like here we're talking about 10, 11 for girls, 12, 13 for boys. But,
Most
you know,
of
we
the
think of
studies,
13.
Yeah. Some of our studies looked at like 14 to 18 years.
Right.
But a lot of the data we looked at also included 9 through 13, or 9 through 13 was the same as what it was for 14 through 18.
Right.
So, you know, you may not have a teen yet, but developmentally, but you may have a 5th grader, a 4th grader who's 9, 8 or 9, headed that way. Okay, so here's the other big thing. We talked about height and body weight, bone mass and bone density.
Yes.
In those 2.5 years of peak growth, teens accumulate 25% of their adult bone density. Bone mass also increases by 40 to 60% in adolescence.
Bone mass increases 40 to 60%.
Well,
that is really significant.
Let me tell you, I just worked on a project where it was really focused on osteoporosis and really focused on the importance. You know, we tend to think about, especially women, when we get older, we think about maintaining it. We don't want to lose it, right?
Right.
But what is even more critical before that is that we maximize in the teens and 20s and early 30s, is that we maximize that peak bone mass, or the potential for peak bone mass. And because that's going to be the point they're strongest, the bones are strongest and most dense.
Right.
And so you really want to maximize those key nutrients that the bones need in your teens and 20s and early 30s.
Yeah.
When you really don't care about osteoporosis. So you're not thinking about osteoporosis.
Exactly. And you know, teens, in theory, they're active, right? And so they're doing the activity to help build the bone mass. But you still have to have the nutrition to like really support that, you know, that growth.
Now, when I went to this conference, and this is probably some of the screenshots I sent to you at this conference, is I knew there was some brain development. I mean, obviously, we all know there's some brain development going on during the teenage years.
I mean,
you know, you're just hoping they have come out of it with some sense.
You're hoping that they get all the way through the brain development and it doesn't pause partway through.
But an amazing pediatrician at I believe from a children's hospital in California spoke on more about the brain development. And it is a very rapid period during those adolescent years of growth. And she referred to also pruning and rewiring. So the gray and white matter is increasing in the brain, but then also all these, and I think I've got this correct, I may not, but all the connections in the brain, like the synaptic connections,
nerves and stuff,
those are massively growing and expanding, and the brain is also doing what they call pruning.
I love that word, by the way.
So it's going in. So all these connections, all these little lines. I wish people could see my hands right now.
I wish they could too.
Are growing, and then the brain is going in and like pruning the ones that don't need to be there, rewiring stuff on its own. So it's a massive time for just brain development, and your brain needs the nutrients, key nutrients, in order for this development to be more efficient and the mature brain develop with the cognition and psychosocial.
Yeah, to really optimize what your brain is doing. Same as the bones, is like your body is doing it, but we want to optimize it as best we can with nutrition. And the cool part, I think, is that some of the nutrients that are really important for brain health, we can sometimes add in as supplements if we need to.
Yeah. But what's interesting, I thought, is a lot of these nutrients, like just for overall growth, for brain health, for bones, a lot of them overlap.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about why nutrition typically dips at this stage of life. Like, how, you know, look, if you're a parent and you've got a kid at this age, you're going to know some of this stuff. Like, oh, well, no duh, I can tell you exactly why my kid went from eating this, this, and this to now making not so great choices.
Yes. So,
but when you lay it all out as like a list, you're like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of factors have changed.
And there are some legit reasons that aren't totally in the child's or your control.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to jump back on the brain development because this is one I never really thought about. And it has to do impulsivity and preteens and teens' inability to delay instant gratification is one reason why their diets are so poor, nutrient-wise. And this makes sense when I went back to my brain development notes from the conference. The doctor had pointed out that your brain develops from the back to the front.
Right.
And that frontal cortex is where you have things like executive functioning and emotional reasoning and logic.
Impulse control.
And impulse control. So, we all recognize if you have a teen that they are impulsive, but I'd never thought about it applied to them and their food choices. And it makes sense.
Right. Yes. Well, and then we had a friend ask too about sleep.
I never thought about this.
She said, well, what about sleep? Like, does the way their brain development affect, like, how does sleep play a role? And it really, what it comes down to is for when they are sleep deprived, your body is not, you're not going to make the best food choices. That's a little bit more comes back to like your hunger hormones, and that can happen with adults too.
I mean, I get less than 8 hours and I'm not making great choices.
Same.
But, in teens, I really hate that we are not able to give teens more space for sleep.
Yeah.
I've always been a big proponent of schools considering starting later for like your high school kids.
Absolutely.
Because they need it.
Yeah.
And really it's not necessarily because they're staying up late, they just need it.
Yeah.
And, my thing has always been, some with my kids too, is like, if they can sleep 12, 13 hours, like on the weekend, 14, their body needs that then.
Oh my gosh,
you know?
Yeah, they're growing and just...
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, other reasons people can everyone could guess this, but you're more influenced by peers.
Right.
Yes, that's why I like hanging out with you. We have a positive influence on each other's food choices. Now, this next one, you have not gotten to, Riley, and I can't wait to see how you handle it when you do, because it's not going to go well for me. The major issue.
It is not going to go well for me.
They begin to have the ability to buy snacks and food outside the home, and you have seen my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The only way I can really control that, now that she's 18 and driving, is just by saying, I'm not giving you money to eat out. We have food here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I already have to deal with the places that they can walk to, but that is still like, I think the big part of a big part of adolescent nutrition that I did not consider is the independence and the autonomy and the lack that they are gaining and the lack of control that we have. So like
all those perfect little meals that you've been cooking for them for dinner and breakfast, the smoothies and another thing that impacts their health is a lot of them start skipping meals.
Correct.
And so they may not be getting that smoothie in the morning. Who knows what they're doing at lunch in the cafeteria?
Oh, yeah.
Because I think most all schools have like a la carte lines where you can get pizza and cheeseburgers or...
Oh, yeah. Or like just like a straight up sandwich.
Yeah. I remember at one of our middle schools, everyone used to get cinnamon rolls, like hot cinnamon rolls. They were good. But for lunch, that was it.
Or like just French fries.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's a great choice.
Yeah.
That's a great choice. But okay, so question for you, and then we can move on to the next thing. How many meals out of the day, let's go a weekday, not a weekend. How many meals out of a weekday do you feel like you have control over with your 18-year-old daughter and your 15-year-old son? And and maybe it's different for each.
It is different. With Madeline, my 18-year-old, this summer I've felt like I've had zero control over meals.
Yeah.
And she's working. She has her own money. She can do what she wants to do. The only time I give her money to eat out is like if I'm not there and I'm not cooking or we don't have food in the house.
Yeah.
But I feel like I had zero control. Now, when she was in school, I felt like I had control over breakfast when she did eat breakfast.
Yeah.
And control over dinner. Although this is another thing that you'll find happen is they start well, they've always never really wanted things that mom cooks.
Oh,
But
gosh, yes.
they can start fixing their own things.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes it's not bad. Sometimes it's like a bowl of cereal. But so you start to lose control of dinner too.
Yeah.
And then I'd buy stuff for lunch boxes, but they take it 1 or 2 days and then they're like, I'm over it. So Griffin, who's 15, he, I just can't keep enough food in the house for him right now. I
can't keep enough milk in the house when he comes to my house. I'm like, Griffin's coming. I better go buy another half gallon.
Yeah. I have more control. This summer when he's out with friends, I don't. But when he's at home, I have control.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to eat everything that's in the house.
Right.
So it's up to me to stock the house.
The house. Yeah. He's going to eat everything in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm really interested to see how it evolves in your house.
Yes. Well, I'm already getting to the stage with my almost 13-year-old where she will fix herself something. And the problem I have is that she is sometimes fixing it at 5 or 5:30. I've not transitioned from work or the gym or whatever to then be able to provide something, to provide dinner at that hour. Like our day just doesn't operate that way. And so then it's about, well, what did you choose at 5 o'clock? And now instead of dinner at 6 or 6:15, is it dinner at, 7:30?
I did go through a period where I started trying to cook dinner closer to around 4:30.
Yeah.
We were all on different schedules, but Madeline in particular, she was hungry then.
Yeah.
She needed a meal.
Yeah.
Like snacks, you get to a point where you're hungry and like snacks don't fill you up.
Right.
So I tried that for a while. It's kind of hard though with work.
Yeah.
And that worked well, and then it'd just sit on the stove warm until Griffin wanted to eat at 6:30 or 7,
Right.
But
that's a great tip. That's a great tip. Especially for families that have sports or after school activities or
Yeah. Okay, so let's see if we got all the reasons why nutrition declines. So an increase in skipping meals, but also they start replacing meals with snacks.
Mm-hmm. It's like almost like back to toddlerhood.
Yes. Yes.
Except they can get their own snacks.
Yeah. Now, so we have this major decline in their diet caused by all these various factors. But what you've got going in their body is that all these physical changes occurring, their needs are skyrocketing.
I mean, for some of the nutrients that we're going to talk about in a couple minutes, the recommended amount is the highest of your entire
lifespan.
Yes.
Lifespan.
Yeah.
Well, I like this quote. It said, physical changes make nutrient needs high in teens, but teens' emotional, intellectual, and social changes make meeting those a challenge.
Yeah. Understatement of the year. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, if you want to talk about ultra-processed foods, 68%, almost 70% of a teen's total energy or calories each day comes from ultra-processed foods. Yeah.
I'm just shaking my head over here. Yeah. So basically, this was another quote that I found really fascinating. So it says, adolescents are vulnerable to what they're calling the triple burden, and that's malnutrition, undernutrition, and then micronutrient deficiencies and overnutrition. So basically, not getting enough of what they're supposed to get and getting too much of what they're not supposed to get.
It always throws my students when I teach Nutrition 101 because overnutrition is considered a form of malnutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Because most kids and adults that are getting more calories than they need are still lacking in all those key vitamins and minerals they need.
Right, because they're not getting it from necessarily where they should be getting it.
Yeah.
Okay, Carolyn, let's talk about some of those key nutrients that teens are missing and the way that science measures it, because I think that that's important.
So I'm going to give you all my quick 101 spill, how I explain it to my students. So you have several sets of dietary recommendations, like values of nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Most everybody knows the RDA.
Right. Recommended dietary allowance.
Yes. And that's usually the highest recommended value that's to maintain health.
Right. It's like if 98% of people ate this amount, then they would all be very healthy.
Yeah. We are learning it doesn't necessarily represent the optimal amount, but...
Good point. Very good distinction.
But RDA is kind of used in that form. Okay, so when there is not enough research for scientists to set an RDA, then a nutrient will have what they call an AI, an adequate intake value.
Mm-hmm.
So for those nutrients that don't have an RDA, they have an AI, adequate intake. Now, then there is another value called the EAR, stands for Estimated Average Requirement. Honestly, I never used this value. The only time I ever used it was in my dissertation because that's typically what you compare stuff intakes to in research.
Right.
But from a clinical standpoint, from working with people, from making recommendations to people, I can't think of any reason why I would ever use the EAR. But it's the average requirement.
Yep.
So it's kind of like saying, like we said, the RDA meets approximately 98% of the healthy population's needs. The EAR represents around 50% of the population. So 50% are going to need more, 50% may need less than that value.
Yeah.
So,
but the EAR, the reason why we're explaining it is that when we start talking about the nutrients that adolescents are falling short on, the benchmark is the EAR, which is basically it is a low level.
The EAR is low. And so that's why we wanted to explain it to y'all, because what we're about to tell you, these research uses the EAR to compare intakes often. And so we're going to give you, kind of describe how low teens' intakes are based on data that's based on the EAR. So what we wanted y'all to know is that the EAR is low. We aren't even talking about the RDA.
Right. Yes.
We're talking about the EAR.
We're already lowering the bar.
Yes.
Basically.
We are already
lowering the bar. And now we will tell you.
Yes. Okay. So there is some, there are continuous nutrition studies going on. I think they're still going on.
Oh, yeah.
Where they gather data and analyze what people are eating in different age groups. And so they have data on adolescents that are 14 to 18. And so they are constantly analyzing this data, and in this particular chart that I'm looking at, they compared adolescents 14 to 18, their intakes with the EAR. Now remember, the EAR is already low, okay? So let's take, where should I start? Let's start with calcium.
Sure.
Okay. So 90, let's see, I need to get my glasses out. 83% of adolescent females, their intake of calcium is below the EAR.
Mm-hmm.
So most adolescent girls is below the EAR. Mm-hmm. And yeah. Boys, 55% are below the EAR for calcium.
Let's look at phosphorus.
47% of girls are below the EAR. 12% of boys.
Boys are doing pretty good.
Pretty good.
How about magnesium?
88% of girls are below the EAR for magnesium. 84% for boys are below it.
All right, and how about the Whopper vitamin D?
Yeah. Over 97% of girls are below the EAR for vitamin D.
Okay. So pretty much nearly 100% of teenage girls between the ages of 14 and 18 are not even meeting what I would call the bottom line, like the below the barrel here of vitamin D.
Well, and boys aren't much better. 94% are below the EAR.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one really shocked me.
Yeah.
And there's other nutrients. I'm not going to read all these to you, but protein is one where they could do a better job. Some of your B vitamins. Zinc is one as well. That just kind of varies.
Mm-hmm. Iron.
Yeah, iron. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a key one.
That's a key one.
So we're going to dive into 3 that we think are really important, particularly for this growth physically and brain development wise, that are really key for adolescence.
Yes.
The first one being iron.
Yes. The first one is iron. So we've actually done an episode exclusively on iron before, which you could go back and listen to. It was a little bit more focused on females than it was on males. But really, the big thing about we can get into, and we will get into, like, what iron is needed for. But what I found most interesting at this stage of life, what the research is saying, is that iron deficiency in adolescence is really compromising cognitive performance. And so iron is really important. It's the one that shuttles oxygen all around our body, and that's how you know it. So that's how I know it, right? So it's important for breathing, obviously. It's important for muscles. It's important for physical growth and neurological development, basic cellular functioning. But, and again, like, it transfers oxygen from the lungs to the tissues as well. But in teenagers, because it has that neurological development component and it plays a role in growth of, I can never say this word, oligodendrocytes, and also plays a role in neurotransmitter production, that when you are deficient in it, it is affecting your cognition. It's affecting your memory, and it's also affecting
somewhat.
Your attention.
And I know in kids, a lot of kids who maybe considered ADHD at first, like hyperactive the type, they now say, like, check their iron first,
right?
Because iron deficiency can come across like that in some kids, and
I'm
assuming that follows a little with teens.
And we've gone through this actually with my older daughter with the pediatrician. Like, she went through a phase of, like, major exhaustion. And that was the first thing that the pediatrician checked, is she was like, I'm consistently finding iron in preteen girls to be a problem, which you wouldn't expect because they're not necessarily menstruating.
Right.
But anyway, so that's the part where I felt like when I was looking at the research, I was like, wow, iron is really important for this stage of life, really, from a brain standpoint.
Yeah. We forget, even I forget, we tend to think of red blood cells and iron and, if you don't have enough iron, you're tired or you become anemic. But it plays a huge role in cognition and just normal brain development and function.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's tell people approximately what the RDA is for iron.
Yes.
For teens. So since we've been focusing on 14 to 18, why don't we start there? And then we can cover 9 through 13 in case anybody's interested in that.
So for 14 to 18-year-olds, you're looking at, for men, it's 11 milligrams. It's going to be higher for girls. It's 15 milligrams a day. And that is purely from a menstruation standpoint. If you back up to 9 to 13, it's 8 milligrams for both boys and girls. It's even across the board. But that 11 to 15 is truly with the exception of pregnancy and lactation for females, that 11 to 15 milligrams is the highest in your entire life. So when your children are babies, you might have given them an iron supplement. At that stage of life, pre 1 year, they need 11 milligrams. So now we're looking at 11 for boys, 15 for girls. It's much, much higher.
And 11, I was trying to see if I could pull up some quick serving sizes of different foods to illustrate to people, like, it's hard to get 11 in.
It is.
It's hard. It's really hard to get 15.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why prenatal or during pregnancy is even higher, which is why they usually give people a multivitamin that has extra iron in it, because it's so hard to get what they need.
Well, and so for comparison, like, if you look at pregnancy, the amount recommended is 27 milligrams a day. That is a lot.
That's a lot.
That is a whole lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a lot of your foods, for like a 2.5 to 3 ounce serving are going to have like 0.5 to maybe really good protein foods are going to have maybe close to 3.
Yeah.
But, that's assuming they sit down and have a family dinner that has those protein sources that are iron rich,
Exactly.
And then some of your plant sources have more per serving, but you don't absorb it as well. It's absorbed at a much lower rate, so you aren't getting all that you're eating.
Exactly. So and that's the other part. The other thing you have to remember too is, what are you eating some of these with? So if you're eating them with a calcium-rich food, that calcium is going to bind some of that iron and inhibit that absorption.
Yeah. Yeah. And the opposite is true of vitamin C. If you're eating something that has vitamin C, like some colorful fruits or vegetables or something, with that iron source, that's going to enhance absorption.
Right. So like I'm looking right now, like you look at something like white beans or lentils or tofu, they all deliver decent amounts of iron, but those are plant-based sources. So we're really only absorbing,
if I remember correctly, it's like 10 to 18%.
I was going to say I know it's less than 50% of that.
Yeah.
Now we go back to oysters, which you and I have talked about before, but a lot of people aren't eating 3 ounces of oysters. That still is only 8 milligrams.
Because the shells don't count.
Yeah, that's true. That is still only 8 milligrams.
Yeah.
Okay, beef liver is another lovely choice.
You know what? We'd all
It's not happening.
So nourished if we just ate some beef liver once a week, but it's not happening.
It's not happening, okay? And that's 5 ounces.
Yeah.
Or 5 milligrams for 3 ounces.
Yeah.
So like you said, when you get down, I mean, let's talk about beef, for example, all right? That is also up on the list here, and that's 2 milligrams per serving.
Yeah. Is that for a 3-ounce serving? On
For
average.
3 ounce
On
serving.
average, yeah.
Yeah. So now most of us probably eat more than 3 ounces, but we're not necessarily eating. So maybe let's just be generous. Let's say it's 6 ounces that you're eating of beef. It's a lot of beef to be.
Well, I feel
to
like
put down. We're still only talking 4 milligrams.
Beef is. There's only a handful of these foods that teens are going to eat typically, and
Correct.
beef is one of those.
Yes.
And so when you think they eat a 3-ounce serving and they get on average around 2, maybe a little more milligrams of iron, that's great. But then you look, okay, oh gosh, guys need 11 in a day. Girls need 15. Then it starts the gravity of it. Now, some fish have some, chicken and pork have some, but it's closer to around 1 milligram usually.
Yeah.
And these are just averages. You'll see slightly different numbers depending on what source you use. But all that to say, it's hard to get.
It is. It is.
Adequate amounts.
And this is one, I mean, I supplement it in my kids. I supplement it with myself. This is one that I would say it is absolutely worth considering a supplement. But here's my big but. You need to go get your iron levels tested.
Do not do it on your own.
Before you start supplementing. You have to do that. Now, that said, research.
And then let the healthcare provider prescribe the amount.
Exactly.
And they will typically monitor your blood levels because you can get too much iron, and iron turns into if you have too much, turns into a free radical in the body.
Which is not good.
Yeah.
Remember, free radicals are harmful.
Cause inflammation.
It always comes back to inflammation. So there is some research, though, in kids and adolescents and even women that has shown that iron supplementation can help increase attention, concentration, and even intelligence. So very important, definitely one to pay attention to.
Yeah, but don't go out and buy an iron supplement. Talk to your pediatrician, talk to your family doctor.
Exactly.
Get blood work done. Let them make the recommendation.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, next nutrient. And this is a big problem in my house.
Yeah.
Because my daughter does not drink milk anymore. It hasn't for quite a while.
Yeah.
So calcium, obviously, is what we're talking about, calcium. And this is one, you mentioned that some of the nutrient needs are highest during the teenage years than any other time during the lifespan. Calcium is one. Mm-hmm. Your needs during those adolescent years are higher than they are at any other stage of life, even when you're old.
Yeah.
Yes, trying to maintain your bone mass.
When you're a female, when you're a postmenopausal female, when your needs also go back up, still the teenage years higher.
They need more.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and we talked earlier about how we're building our bone density, we're growing in height, like you are literally contributing to your skeleton at this stage of life. So it is really important. And the other thing about calcium is that it's not just for your bones. It also plays a role in your muscle function. It plays a role in nerve transmission. It plays a role in hormones. So it is truly the most abundant mineral in the body. We just happen to think about it from a bone standpoint, but it plays a really big role in a lot of other parts of our body.
Yeah. Yeah. And just as a reminder, most teens get way below the EAR when it comes to calcium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, statistically speaking, 49-ish percent of them.
Okay. So their RDA for calcium, I like this RDA I like Calcium's RDA because it is the same for males and females, and it's the same from 9 years of age to 18.
Easy. The point is it's easy to remember this one.
Yes. It is 1,300 milligrams. Even your grandmother doesn't need quite that much. It is 1,300 milligrams, highest you will ever need in your lifespan.
Exactly.
And it's you're building that bone mass.
Yeah. Now, the other part about calcium that I want people to remember, your most concentrated sources are going to be those dairy products, absolutely, or and fortified, either fortified dairy products or even things like fortified orange juice. But I want people to also remember that you can get it from leafy greens as well.
And broccoli.
Yeah. So your spinach, your kale, like you said, broccoli.
And then fish that have like small bones, like sardines.
Yeah, I mean, look, my kids are not eating those.
Either.
Look, I can get them to eat anchovies, but it's like 2 anchovies and an entire tomato sauce, and it's been blended, and I don't tell them what else I put in there.
Yeah.
But
just a dietitian, you have to say, and fish with small bones, like sardines.
Right. No, it's so
but
true.
no, I'm not gonna lie, my kids are not eating that.
Yeah. But let's take a cup of milk. A cup of milk, for example, has about 275 milligrams.
Yeah.
Okay. And we need 1,300 a day.
You need at least 4 times that, if I'm doing my math right.
Yes.
1,300 divided. You said 275.
Yes. So, and now if your household, like mine, does a combination of cow's milk and plant-based milk, you need to make sure that you're buying plant-based milk that's fortified with calcium.
Yes. Okay, I did the math. Based on a cup of milk having 275 milligrams of calcium, a teen would need 4.7 cups of milk a day to meet that. I mean, we're good if we get one.
Well, and I have one child who will drink one, and I have another child who won't touch it.
Yeah. And let's tell people, we are going to, at the very end, we're going to talk about some real superstar foods that pack in a lot of these key nutrients that kids are needing.
Yes.
I have the best luck when it comes to calcium with yogurt, but that's not a daily thing. It's,
Yeah. No, we do okay with yogurt. I do pretty well with cheese.
Oh, yeah, cheese.
And again, my children are unique. They really love tofu.
Yeah.
So I can get something with tofu.
They are.
But the nice part is that because calcium is present in a variety of foods, you can get a little bit.
Yeah. But it's still,
from
now that I'm thinking through this, it's still very hard to meet that need of 1,300.
Absolutely.
I mean, I probably don't meet that most days.
No.
I'm struggling to meet, what is ours right now, 1,000? Yeah, that's hard for me to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is another one. Calcium is another one that I think is absolutely worth considering supplementing.
Yeah.
Unless you have an avid dairy eater.
Yeah. Yes, I would agree. Again, talk to your healthcare provider, but calcium's usually a pretty safe one to supplement.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, the last one, my favorite one, vitamin D.
I mean, if you just said my favorite one, and we have any listeners that have been here before, I'm going to guess that they knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, surely.
But, okay,
here's what blew my mind at this conference I went to.
Yes.
So, we know vitamin D is needed for bones. And then we've learned a lot over the past 10 years about vitamin D's role in immune system health and immune system regulation. And vitamin D acts kind of like an immune modulator, meaning it kind of keeps the immune system on the rails, on the track.
Right.
It keeps it from veering off sometimes. And then there's a lot more that's being studied about vitamin D and just your susceptibility to autoimmune diseases and even things like respiratory infections. There's a lot we don't know. It's really interesting. But what I learned at this conference is that I did not know is there is a receptor for vitamin D, like a receptor so the cells can use vitamin D, a receptor on every single cell in the body, including your brain cells.
That's a piece of information that I wish every dietitian knew.
I know. Well, and that, to me, that is like, whoa, that kind of illustrates the importance of vitamin D.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And look, I know you and I can go down this rabbit hole, so you're going to have to like pull me right back out of it. But here's the thing is we're going to talk in a minute about what the recommended dietary allowance is for vitamin D. But we have talked at length before on this podcast about how the recommendation, the RDA, is well below what other organizations like the Endocrine Society recommends.
Yeah. Most consider the RDA for vitamin D. And it's kind of odd because there's not many other nutrients like this. But a lot of healthcare providers consider the RDA for vitamin D lower than it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those healthcare providers.
Same.
I tend to follow the Endocrine Society. They have recommendations because people may be like, why is the Endocrine Society getting involved? Because vitamin D acts like a hormone.
Right. And these amounts, so that just to elaborate a little bit more for listeners, the RDA is the science that they used is predominantly based on what is recommended for bone health, because that is where the lion's share of the science is around bone health. Whereas Endocrine Society, even though there isn't as much of an abundance of it, their recommendation is higher because, like you said, it acts like a hormone. It has an immune-like function as well.
Well, my understanding, too, is the Endocrine Society recommendations are a lot of that is based on what you need to maintain healthy blood levels. And they really look at, okay, you want to keep your blood level of vitamin D in this certain range.
Right.
And to do that usually requires more than the RDA.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go with let's tell them what the RDA is.
Okay, so, and this is nice because the RDA from ages 1 to 18, I think even beyond that, is 15 micrograms, which translates to 600 IU. So you'll see it listed both ways. So 15 micrograms or 600 IU.
It does not jump up until you are over 70.
Yeah.
And it is lower when you are under 1 year old.
Yes.
But otherwise, from 1 to 70, 15 micrograms.
That's really nice. You can just dose
all the people
in the house, in one foul swoop.
Yeah.
Okay. I give my kids a lot more than this.
So yes, you give your kids higher levels of vitamin D.
Yeah.
Than this. And I do as well.
Okay. So, and I will share what I give my kids. Doesn't mean it's right. We're still learning about vitamin D. But what you need to look at with any nutrient, before you give yourself or your child any kind of dosage, is to look at the UL value for it. And that's the tolerable upper limit or intake level. Mm-hmm. And if you regularly take beyond that level, you're likely to experience negative or harmful side effects. So you definitely want to stay below it. But for vitamin D, and I'm just going to operate in IUs because I figure when it comes to vitamin D, I feel like
that's how most supplements have it listed anyway.
Yeah. So we said that it's 600 IUs. That's the RDA. The upper limit each day for vitamin D is 4,000 IUs.
That is a massive, massive difference.
So, the upper limit is not optimal. It's just saying it's kind of like warning, like stay below this.
Right, stay below this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you've listened to us for a while now, you know that one of the reasons we love vitamin D is that you don't have to take it each day. You can take a weekly dosage. Mm-hmm. And what I tend to do is I think I have a 5,000 IU dosage, and I put it in my kids' supplement thing like about 4 days a week.
Yeah.
So they're getting around 20,000 IUs for the week.
Mm-hmm. And I do the same thing, but we know we've talked about this before. We're not big pill swallowers in our house, so I put it in
smoothies
as a liquid, I put it in their smoothies.
Yeah.
So the value too for me of putting it in the smoothies is that you want to be taking it with a meal because it is a fat soluble vitamin. That is why you can dose it in large quantities, a couple times a week or even just once a week, because it is fat soluble. So it's not one of those where like you're going to go 20,000 IU and you're going to pee out 18,000.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, like same. And there is even more there's more science coming out too about the value of pairing your vitamin D with vitamin K, and specifically D3 and K2. And you were the one who taught me about the importance of D3, because there are multiple forms of vitamin D that you can supplement with.
Yeah, D3 is absorbed better, used better by the body.
So yes to supplementing, really,
well,
is
and
the gist of it.
I also want to say, I hope y'all know, if y'all listen to us regularly, we are not big supplement pushers at all, unless there is really a true need. But vitamin D is one that I've gotten where I typically recommend most all people supplement. And the Endocrine Society actually recommends vitamin D supplementation for children between the ages of 1 and 18.
I mean, as they should.
Now, they don't give doses, but they recommend supplementation.
Right.
And if you remember, it was around 100% of teens didn't even get the EAR.
Correct.
And when I think about what I'm most intrigued about with vitamin D is the immune factor.
Correct.
And the impact it may have on keeping the immune system strong. So I may even up our family's vitamin D like during the cold winter months.
Yeah. Well, and I think I was going to say, it's not just about cold and flu season and viruses and bacteria. It's also about just keeping your immune system, keeping your inflammation down, and your immune system humming the way it should be humming. Yeah. And there is definitely associations in the research between vitamin D status and autoimmune conditions.
Yeah. You can't say that a lack of it causes it.
Correct.
Or anything. They don't. But
I chose my words very carefully.
You did.
There.
You chose your words very well. Thank you. I don't need to add anything else to that.
The other part that I want to circle back on, where you were saying about the Endocrine Society, is that my suspicion, even though I didn't read it, you read it, is that they're saying they recommend supplementation because finding vitamin D naturally in foods is so hard.
Oh, yeah.
So hard.
It's one of those that you just really... It's difficult to get it from food, and it's difficult to get the amount you need from food.
Yeah. And especially because some of the leading sources are things like cold water fish.
Yeah.
Right? Or cod liver oil.
Yeah.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Okay, so those are our main three: iron, calcium, vitamin D, that we feel like kind of are the most critical. But there's two others that we want to mention. And that's phosphorus, which we never talk much about phosphorus. I don't think much about it. But
we don't. And I'm going to date myself for a minute here. Like, I remember learning about how, like, Coke and how, like, a McDonald's meal was, like, abundant in phosphorus because the combination of, like, a soda, which I don't remember why, and your, like, cheeseburger or whatever. And so it always was one that in school.
The carbonation.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
You.
And I was just reading about it because some people were saying this is why it either blocks calcium absorption or it does something where the body can't use calcium if it doesn't block it. And so there's some thought that too much phosphorus from soft drinks could have a negative effect on bone health. But from what I've read, I was just reading kind of a summary of studies on that, and it said, yes, it does have that effect, but it's usually pretty negligible on bone health overall.
Yeah. And so again, that was me dating myself. Like, I felt like that was like the big message that we heard when we were in school.
Don't tell me your nutrition faculty, when y'all got to phosphorus, recommended going to have a meal at McDonald's.
No, they didn't. It was more of the perspective of like, hey, everybody's getting ample phosphorus. We're all fine. Don't worry about it. But the thing is phosphorus plays a role in your bones and your teeth. But then it's also a part of like cell membranes as well. So, it is important, and it's one that, it's not terribly difficult to get, but it's just one that we don't talk about a lot. And there is some research that shows that teens are not even meeting the EAR on phosphorus.
Yeah, particularly girls. Yeah, it's in a lot of foods. I was pulling up my list here that you so nicely compiled. So it's in a lot of foods, but if your child or teen is getting most of their foods from ultra-processed sources, they may definitely be low in it. So it's in like dairy products, meats and poultry, fish, eggs, nuts, legumes, vegetables, and grains, which there's components of all of those in the foods that teens are eating, but usually ultra refined components of those that may not be rich in phosphorus anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We want like the phosphorus that is in these foods when you cook a meal at home.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so the other nutrient that we mentioned briefly earlier is zinc. And I know we talk a lot about zinc in my house in the winter during cold and flu season, because research shows that if you start taking some zinc or you up your zinc at the onset of a cold, you can potentially reduce the duration.
Yeah.
Fantastic news. Lovely. But guess what? Zinc is also in your brain. And a lack of it has been linked to impaired attention, impaired learning, impaired memory. And so, again, going back to like major brain development at this stage of life, let's at least just not forget about zinc.
Yeah. Well, and your richest food sources are going to be meat, like beef, fish, and seafood.
But most kids and adolescents in the United States are actually getting the majority of their zinc from fortified breakfast cereals.
Okay.
I'm not saying that that's
interesting.
necessarily the route to go. I'm just saying that statistically speaking, that's where they're getting most of it.
Yeah. Okay. At least we have fortified breakfast cereals.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But it's one to watch. And what you're going to see when we list these kind of key foods or superstar foods is a lot of these nutrients overlap in foods. Like where iron is usually, where something's a good source of iron, it's usually has some zinc in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, zinc is one that I really, I've not supplemented with before, with the exception of during like an active infection.
You do want to look at the UL for that one.
Yes, absolutely. Because you can really hit some of those negative side effects like the stomach discomfort, distress, whatever. It can impair taste and smell when you get a little aggressive with it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and last nutrient. This is a pretty important one. We probably shouldn't have saved it to the last, but protein.
Yes.
Protein. And here's the thing, kind of like the adult recommendation, which is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight.
Oh my gosh,
day.
you and I shouldn't be eating much more than that.
Kids is 0.85, but that is not that amount is enough to maintain health.
Right. Let's
just for you to get by. It is not the optimal amount.
Let's think about just using, I feel like our listeners understand like adulthood, right? Let's think about adults. Like we're talking about, we say 0.8 and then we say, but if you're really active, if you're lifting weights, if you're trying to build muscle, you need to be going 1.2, 1.6, grams per kilo. What are most of our adolescents doing?
I bet they aren't even getting this 0.85.
No, but they're playing. I mean, I'm looking around my street. They're playing sports. Sometimes they're playing 2 sports a season. Even if they're doing things like show choir or dance, like they are physically active. They are building muscle. They could be riding their bicycles around the neighborhood. They're building muscle.
In addition to that, they're growing. Growth, your needs.
Thank you. Yeah.
Your protein needs go up so much when you are going through a growth period. So along with physical activity that a lot of teens may be involved in, you need optimal protein for growth. And then, protein is needed to make all those immune cells to keep your immune system functioning like it should. So protein's a key component in immune health.
We've also talked about how it plays a role in neurotransmitters and the like feel-good hormone like serotonin. So
yeah. So there is not, we could not find an optimal amount for protein. What I would recommend is make sure your child is getting a little above 0.85 grams per kilogram of body weight per day.
Yeah.
Or, not necessarily crazy above, but at least make sure they're getting that, because my guess is there's probably a lot of kids. I know sometimes I struggle to get my protein in. There's probably a lot of teens that are under this RDA minimum.
Right. Okay. So the other thing too, I think that for the parents of girls, this is one that is really this one hit home for me, because the percent of adolescents that are below the EAR, there is a big difference between boys and girls. So it's like 20-something% for girls, and it's only like 9% for boys.
That makes sense.
So
it's just one to watch.
It's one to watch, and I think that if you happen to have girls, it's important. Now, I'm not saying we need to be doing protein powders.
No,
not
that's
at all.
not what we're saying at all.
I'm just saying pay attention to it. You know, I know what my kids, they gravitate to a fresh loaf of bread if it's sitting on the counter, and I'm like, that is fine and dandy.
Doesn't gravitate towards carbs and some bread.
Put some peanut butter on it?
Yeah.
Can we melt some cheese on there? I mean, what can I do to get a little protein in there?
Yeah. Well, and I've kind of tried to train mine that, like, see how much better you feel, or see how much more full and satisfied you stay when you put a little cheese on the bread, or you put some peanut butter, or when, you add a little turkey in there.
Exactly.
So.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Superstar foods.
Let's go through some of our superstar foods, which is really what we're trying to say are foods that pull double duty.
Yeah. And I promise these are realistic foods.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're taking off our dietitian hat. We're putting on our mom hat. Well, our mom and dietitian hat.
Both. But
these are realistic to get into your kids.
They are. And if you have tuned out for a minute, come back right now. Pay attention, because this is where the rubber hits the road.
Yeah.
This is the advice. And I also want to say that all 3 of these items are currently in my home.
Same.
They are always in my home.
I didn't know how good I was doing.
I know, right? I'm like, I am winning at the game.
Give us a gold star.
Adolescent nutrition. And in preparation for this episode, I really felt like I was losing.
Yeah. Okay, our number 1 superstar food is beef. Lean, fresh beef.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. And they've done some research looking at teens who consume beef versus teens who don't include beef as part of their diet.
Yes.
And what's interesting is they looked at like these 2 groups of teens. They looked at their overall intake of all nutrients.
Right.
Or a lot of nutrients.
Right.
What they found is that the teens who consumed beef had a higher intake of calcium, iron, phosphorus, potassium, total choline, B12, and zinc. Now, we aren't even talking here about the great protein source that
Correct.
it is. What blows my mind, what's so interesting to me here, is that beef is not really a source of calcium, but these teens who are consuming beef regularly have higher intakes of calcium.
So fascinating.
Yeah.
So fascinating. And, we know that you're going to get iron and zinc in animal proteins, particularly ones that are darker in color.
Mm-hmm.
So like your chicken thighs versus your chicken breasts.
Yeah.
Your beef versus chicken.
Yeah. And beef's going to have more than chicken in general.
Is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
but choose lean cuts of fresh beef.
yes.
Yeah.
But overall, when they looked at adolescent beef eaters versus adolescents who do not eat beef, much better numbers.
It's just interesting that when they looked at this one food in teens' diets, that it was associated with a higher intake of other nutrients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, you are going to get protein, which is great, because 23% of adolescent females are below the EAR, 8% of adolescent males below the EAR for protein.
And remember, the EAR is low, and we already know that RDA for protein is low.
Right.
It's like just the minimum that you need.
Exactly.
So EAR is really low.
Yes.
So
very good point.
Yeah. Okay.
Second food. This one feels very dietitian-like. I'm not going to lie.
Well,
But I think it is very basic, and there is a in some grocery stores, there's an entire aisle
There is
dedicated
a whole wall.
to this.
Well, I think this food is better than us suggesting milk. I love milk, but yogurt. I've found this is a realistic thing I can get my kids to eat. I can put it in smoothies. And a lot of people may not realize, but your yogurt usually has a little more calcium than a glass of milk.
It does. Yeah.
So in yogurt, you're usually, depending on the type, but you're usually getting some protein, particularly if you're getting a Greek.
Yep.
You're getting calcium. You're getting phosphorus. Some yogurts, not all, but some are fortified with vitamin D too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will say, look, we're recommending yogurt. We're not telling people to eat cottage cheese. Cottage cheese is having a moment. Frankly,
I'm so over the cottage cheese moment.
I would like them to stop having a moment so that I can buy the kind of cottage cheese that I like at the grocery store instead of it being sold out every time I go.
That's funny.
Okay, so can we turn this back into an old lady and diet food?
I don't want to see another recipe in my Instagram feed that uses cottage cheese. Yeah.
But yogurt is here to stay, friends. And the thing is that you're looking at getting not quite twice as much calcium per serving, but we're talking about like in a low-fat yogurt, 415 milligrams of calcium. We already talked about 275 in a glass of milk. You're getting 12 to 13 grams of protein in just
on average.
On average in a regular yogurt. You're going to get more than that potentially in a Greek yogurt. So it's
really hits a lot of key nutrients.
It does.
That they are in need of. And like I said, I have found this is easier to get preteens and teens to include.
Yeah.
As opposed to milk. Because I feel like teens are either milk drinkers or they aren't.
Yes.
You know?
Here's the other thing too, is we don't stock a ton of the flavored yogurts in our house. Like we tend to go vanilla. I tend to buy brands that are a little lower in sugar, in added sugar. But these numbers of like calcium, protein, phosphorus, they aren't changing if you need to go for the sweeter yogurts.
No.
Like those are all still existing in those sugary ones.
Yeah.
So, just give yourself a pass if you need to.
Yeah.
All right, the last one.
I think this is going to surprise people.
Honestly, I think we're actually going to get a backlash for this one.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
I absolutely do. But you know what? I stand behind it wholeheartedly.
Yes, because you use this food regularly for like a last-minute dinner when it's like a crazy day or something.
I do.
Yeah. Fortified breakfast cereals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, we have the healthier ones and we have the unhealthy ones.
Yes, I've seen the unhealthy ones. I was so proud of you.
I learned a long time ago that you are going to get a lot of nutrition in there. And when you are a single parent, your kids are doing activities. I'm saying like you're a single parent or your kids are doing activities or you're a working parent or like,
yeah.
You know what? Just lean in. So you're going to get calcium, phosphorus, magnesium. You're going to get zinc and iron. They're all fortified in there, but you're at least getting those in there. In some, you're going to find some B vitamins, and then you're also potentially going to get additional vitamin D and calcium if you're mixing in milk.
Yeah.
So
don't feel like you're a bad parent if, every now and then it's cereal night.
Look, I also happen to live across the street from a family with 4 boys.
Oh.
And I see the amount of food that gets delivered to their house or gets unpacked from their car. And I talk to their mom about she makes 2 dinners every night. Literally.
2 dinners. Yeah.
2 dinners every night. Now, part of that is because of their activities.
Yeah.
So in context, when you take that, you're like, what is wrong with them having a bowl of cereal as a snack? What is wrong with them having a bowl of cereal for dessert?
Yeah.
Like you're hungry at 10?
I will feed Griffin dinner and he eats a big dinner. And then 3 or 4 hours later, like at 9 o'clock at night, he's hungry again.
Yeah.
And so I've found that cereal is an economical way for another meal for him when I'm not getting up and cooking.
Absolutely.
And it's got some nutrients, some of the key ones they need.
And if your child has no interest in the kitchen, they can be very self-sufficient when it comes to cereal and a bowl and some milk and a spoon.
Great point.
But so don't dog those fortified breakfast cereals. There's also a reason why there's an aisle of breakfast cereals at the grocery store.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're right. I feel better. I didn't go into this episode feeling great about my own kids' nutrition.
Same.
But I feel much better. And I do love these 3 foods. And you're right. They are 3 foods that we both regularly include and have in our house.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So hopefully this gives everybody a little inspiration. Hopefully it makes them feel better. And I think especially when you put in context the fact that, like, adolescents in general, it's not their finest moment when it comes to nutrition.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you're not hitting the mark, pretty sure that everybody else around you with children of the same age range feel the same way.
Yeah. You're not alone. Okay, until next week.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us for the Happy Eating Podcast. I'm Brierly Horton.
And I'm Carolyn Williams. If you liked this week's episode, then don't forget to rate and leave us a review on iTunes. And be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a new episode.
We can't wait to have you back at our table next week for a brand new episode. Bye.
The contents discussed in the Happy Eating Podcast, such as advice, studies, text, graphics, images, and other material discussed or presented on the site or podcast, are for informational purposes only. Content is not intended to be a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health providers with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on the Happy Eating Podcast.
If you are in crisis or think you may have an emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. If you're having suicidal thoughts, call 1-800-273-TALK, that's 8255, to talk to a skilled trained counselor at the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If you are located outside the United States, call your local emergency line immediately.